What's up everybody, Afiq here. Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? So today I have a little bit of a comparison video between the ever so popular Perodua Ativa here in Malaysia and a Bruneian spec Toyota Riaze. So essentially both these cars are the same under the hood, but I want to see more what is the difference between the Toyota Riaze as well as the Perodua Ativa. So without further ado, let's check out both this car, and this is ABB Automotive. So one of the most main differentiating an Ativa as well as Riaze is the front end of the car. So looking over at the Toyota Riaze first, so personally my favorite front end is the Riaze. It just looks much more sportier compared to the Ativa. Ativa has a more conservative look to it. Okay, so looking back at the Riaze and the Ativa, what are the similarities that I see here? So the Ativa that I have here is the Ativa H variant, which is the middle variant, and the Riaze that I have here is the Riaze full spec. So this is the upper spec of the Riaze for the Brunei market. Okay, so the thing that I see that's similar is the headlight. So on both this car, the headlight is full LED, both on low beam as well as high beam. And not only that, even the turning indicator for both cars are sequential indicator, so which is quite a nice touch. So both has that sequential signal. Now another thing that I realized that both cars have is front parking sensors, and the location is actually almost at the same location. So you have a parking sensor here on top of the fog lamp for the Ativa. For the Riaze, same thing also, it is on top of the fog lamp. And then the Riaze is slightly special because it has a LED daytime running light built inside this bumper, whereas the Ativa does not. That is where the similarity ends. Okay, so as you can see, the Riaze, it has a bigger lower grille. Detail is like this honeycomb square grille. Okay, and then you have a slightly smaller grille at the bottom. You don't really have a grille at the top, just a small piece of black line with the big Toyota emblem in the middle. If you compare that to the Ativa, Ativa has a very prominent upper grille, and then the detail of the grille is cross-air grille, and then you have a slightly smaller lower grille. So both cars I think has their own styling, but for me the Riaze is slightly more stylish in my opinion. But yeah, both cars are well designed and very handsome. Okay, so under the hood of both the Toyota Riaze as well as the Perodua Ativa is the same 1 liter 1 kr engine. So this engine is 1 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. So in terms of horsepower, both make around 98 PS as well as 140 Nm of torque. Now in Malaysia, the Ativa comes with only that engine, with the 1 liter turbo engine. In the Brunei market, you can actually get the Toyota Riaze, the lower model Riaze, with a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder normally aspirated engine. So that car has a slightly lower horsepower as well as lower torque. Now for both the Ativa and the Riaze, the 1 liter turbo spec, it is paired to a CVT gearbox, and then that power is sent to the front wheels only. So both for the Malaysian spec Ativa as well as the Brunei spec Riaze, it only comes with front wheel drive. No all-wheel drive is available. But I would say, having driven both the car, the power for this car is actually quite sufficient, and especially with the turbo torque at 140 Nm of torque, the power is early and you do feel it from behind the throttle. So I think for both cars, the power plant, especially the 1 liter turbocharged engine, it is actually quite good for this car. So at the side of the Ativa as well as Riaze, how to tell the difference? Okay, so the main one being the rims. Okay, so for the Ativa H and AV, it comes with this 17-inch rim. I would call it flower design, hibiscus design, because it looks like a flower to me. Still two-tone, black with machine finish look in the flower design. Whereas the Toyota Riaze, also same machine finish as well as black two-tone. But as you can see, the design is more dynamic here. It kind of resembles like a turbine blade. So for me, I like the Riaze rim more. Sorry Ativa fans, but I like the Riaze rim more. It just looks more dynamic. Okay, and then in terms of small detail, for the Ativa, the side mirror is painted black, giving that more two-tone effect, whereas the Riaze is body colored. But for both cars, you still have the turning indicator located on the side mirror. Okay. Now another thing that I like on favor of the Riaze more, there is the turbo word located at the just underneath the A pillar. So yeah, it does give you a little bit of a street cred. Oh, my car has a turbo, and then it's stated there. So whereas the Ativa, you do have an indication that this is a turbocharged car, but it's at the back. It's a small T letter sign. So compared to the Riaze, you know, which just say loud and proud over there, turbocharged, you know, that's very appealing to me as well. But if you see both cars, so both car is white and it's the same shade of white, sort of like this pearl white color, which is a very nice color, clean color. And then for the Ativa, only the top spec AV variant has the door handle finish in chrome. For this car, as you can see, it is body colored. If you compare it to the Riaze, it is chrome, right? So yeah, the rest of the car, same body cladding. You have the plastic cladding around the wheel arc, same with the Ativa as well, not much different there. You also has the black out A pillar for both cars, so giving that floating roof effect, which I kind of like, is very much in trend nowadays. Yeah, so the side of the Toyota Riaze and the Ativa, besides the rim, you cannot really tell the difference. Oh, on a quick note, the base model Ativa comes with a slightly smaller single-tone rim, as well as the Toyota Riaze. If you get the lower 1.2 spec model, it also comes with a slightly smaller single-tone rim. But the design is different, of course. So yeah. Okay, so here in the back between the Ativa as well as the Riaze, there's definitely a difference if you look closely. But if you generally see this car on road, you might think both cars are the same. But especially in this both white color. So the major difference between the Ativa and the Riaze is obviously the bumper. So for the Ativa, as you can see, the bumper feature this rear reflector, and the reflector is located slightly higher up on the bumper. And then you don't have any rear fog light, whereas the Riaze do have a rear fog light. And then as you can see with the Ativa, you have sort of like a fake skid plate underneath the car, finished in this like sort of like satin color, which is quite nice. And then you do have a little bit more chrome in the Ativa. So just below the emblem, you can see like that chrome strip underneath that black painted panel, whereas the Riaze, it still have the same black painted panel, but it's missing out the chrome strip. But then you do have, like I said just now, a rear fog lamp, but only on one side of the car. Okay, both have reverse sensor, and then both sort of like have like a built-in spoiler to it. Same also, the third brake light is mounted on the spoiler outside, which is quite nice. Okay, and then the name of the car, the Riaze, Toyota Riaze badging. So for the Riaze, the badge is on the left side of the car, whereas the Ativa is on the right side of the car. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference between the Ativa and the Riaze. The back end of the car, personally, this is where I lean more towards Ativa's back end. I think it just looks more classier compared to the Riaze. Personally, I don't really like this part of the Riaze. It kind of looks like it has fake vents. Hashtag Honda Civic Type R. Yeah, so but still both a very nice design, a very Japanese design actually. So yeah. Okay guys, so I have jumped into the Toyota Riaze Turbo. What is my first impression on this car is that it is an easy car to drive. There's not much learning curve, I feel like, to this car. So the main big thing I noticed between this car and the Ativa, well, there are two things that I noticed the most. So the first thing I noticed the most is this seat. So comparing this seat to the Ativa seat, the Riaze seat is actually it is softer. It is more cushion-like. It's definitely more supple. when I'm sitting on this chair compared to the Ativa. The Ativa's chair is a little bit hard, and especially like the bottom cushion, it is hard in Ativa. In this car, it is definitely softer. And then the other thing that I noticed comparing this car with an Ativa is the suspension setup. I feel like in the Raze, it is a tad more soft compared to the Ativa. The Ativa, I feel like it's tuned slightly harder. But in that way, I think the Ativa handles slightly better than the Raze, because the suspension does make the car a little bit bouncy, especially over uneven pavement, but it is more comfortable, definitely. So visibility, not an issue as well. Ativa as well, not an issue. In terms of power, I feel like it's the exact same power as the Ativa. No surprises there, same engine, same gearbox as the Ativa. Now the one thing that I like the Ativa more is the screen. You have a larger screen in the Ativa. The Toyota Riaze Brunei spec, the screen is smaller, and I do like the reverse camera in the Ativa. It's more high resolution compared to the one in the Raze. The one in the Raze is a bit blurry and a bit dark also. The screen is also like having this sort of like matte finish compared. And then as you know, this car is a Brunei car. So in Brunei, you're actually not allowed to have any sort of tinted. So this cabin is very airy because the window has no tinted. In terms of safety is where the Toyota Riaze lags over the Ativa. In Brunei, the Toyota in Brunei for the Riaze, no matter which trim level you choose, even this top spec model, it doesn't come with any ADAS system, whereas the Perodua Ativa have with the ASA system. The Toyota Riaze doesn't have any TSS or Toyota Safety Sense, which I find quite sad, to be honest, because the Toyota Riaze in Brunei is selling at the owner told me is around $28,000. So if you convert that to Malaysia, it's times by 3.2. It makes the Toyota Riaze a more expensive car than the Ativa. Okay, so I was hoping that this car, you know, at least have some sort of AEB system from the Toyota Safety Sense, you know. But the thing is about this car, the build quality, I feel, maybe because this car is newer, but like the leather in this car as well as the aircon button is different from the Perodua. It's a completely different unit for the aircon system, but the quality I feel is a tad better than the Ativa. The leather as well, the leather in the Toyota Riaze feels nice. It's quite slightly different design as well on the steering wheel, but the leather in the Ativa, I feel like it's kind of like a vinyl leather. It's not as soft as the Toyota leather. Yeah. But then there are a lot of similarities in this car. The speedometer in front of me, the LCD screen, you can change it to the 4 different design, which the Ativa has as well. Looking at the rest of the cabin, there are some things missing, like the lock button in the middle here, where the Ativa has that lock button to lock and unlock the car, whereas the Raze just have this sort of like one long slot console over here. Another thing I realized also, like in the Raze, even though this top full spec model, it doesn't have the flashy color of the top spec Ativa. So as you know, Ativa full spec, you can get that chair with the suede leather as well as the red trim, whereas this car is just mostly grey, what they call grey, black and silver trims. So the Ativa full spec is definitely more like, there's more color inside the cabin compared to this car. Overall, my experience with the Toyota Riaze, it felt very similar to the Ativa, no doubt. The only thing that I noticed, like I said, 2 things that are different is the ride is softer in this car, and I prefer this seat over the Ativa. It's more comfortable. The Ativa is slightly hard, but other than that, both car feels very similar. Easy car to drive. You're sitting way high up, SUV driving position, very commanding view of the road. So the Toyota Riaze also, I noticed even though it doesn't have any ADAS system, but it does have blind spot monitoring, which is good. Okay, good to know that it has that system. So yeah, that is a quick video of comparison between a Malaysian spec Perodua Ativa as well as a Bruneian spec Toyota Riaze. But it's not a direct comparison. The Ativa is a mid-spec while this Riaze is a full spec. But spec by spec is very close. Like, there are some features that the Sky have that the Ativa don't have, like this pedal shifter, 7-speed virtual ratio, whereas the Ativa doesn't have any pedal shifter. So yeah, so it's interesting to see how Toyota and Perodua spec their car up to meet a certain price point. So overall, yeah, that is the Ativa as well as the Toyota Riaze. Okay guys, we have come to the end of this video and I do hope you enjoy watching it. So before I wrap up, on top of doing YouTube videos, I'm also actually running my own personalized polishing as well as detailing service here in my hometown of Miri, Sarawak. So if you are in the area and you wish to get your vehicles done by yours truly, do find my contacts in the description below. I would like to say thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.